By the late 90s, it seemed that 2D side-scrolling beat-em-ups had gone completely extinct. Games like Streets of Rage, Final Fight and Double Dragon were fondly remembered relics of the arcade era. But here's the thing, there was still a massive fan base hungry for more of these games. Maybe they were frustrated waiting forever for Sega to release a fourth Streets of Rage game, or maybe they just missed the simple joy of punching their way through waves of enemies. Whatever the reason, a passionate development community began to flourish in the mid-2000s, which led to the creation of Beats of Rage, an ambitious fan project that combined Streets of Rage levels with King of Fighters character sprites. The game was such a hit that it eventually evolved into something much bigger, Open Beats of Rage, or OpenBOR for short. A fully fledged open source engine that lets fans create their own beat-em-ups and fighting games. Since then, countless impressive titles have been developed using this platform. I've already covered 15 standout games, well actually slightly more than 15 games, across my previous trilogy of OpenBOR videos, and I definitely encourage you to check those out if you haven't done so already. But today, in honour of spooky season and with Halloween approaching, I'm diving into 5 more OpenBOR games that you absolutely need to play. And each one of these is distinguished by a deliciously dark horror theme. Ooh. So, dim the lights, grab some candy, and let's explore the creepier side of the OpenBOR community. Let's take a look. Kicking off our horror lineup is a true crowd pleaser, Evil Dead Redux by Thatcher Productions. If you're a fan of Sam Raimi's iconic Evil Dead franchise, this side-scrolling beat-em-up is basically a love letter to the franchise that's been written in blood and chainsaw fuel. You step into the blood-soaked boots of Ash Williams himself, armed with all his signature gear. His trusty shotgun, his iconic chainsaw hand, and yes, even the dreaded Necronomicon. As you battle your way through hordes of Deadites, you'll unlock new abilities and devastating special moves that would make the king himself proud.
This is gonna sting a little. This is my boomstick.
What really sets the game apart is the attention to detail. The developers managed to secure actual voice clips from Bruce Campbell, which adds an incredible level of authenticity to the experience. Every groovy and wisecrack lands with that perfect Ash Williams swagger we all know and love. The story mode serves as a proper sequel to the films, featuring all your favourite grotesque Deadites from the movies. Fair warning though, this game does not pull any punches when it comes to graphic content, staying true to the franchise's trademark blend of horror and dark humour. What makes Evil Dead Redux even more appealing is that it's still being actively updated and improved, showing the developers ongoing commitment to the project. And with a new Evil Dead film scheduled for next year, July 24th to be precise, there's never been a better time to brush up on your Deadite slaying skills. Trust me, this one's highly recommended for any horror fan looking to get groovy.
This is my boomstick.
I am Evil Homer! I am Evil Homer!
Now here's something that you probably weren't expecting on a horror game list. The Simpsons, Treehouse of Horror. Yep, you heard that right. And before you ask, this isn't just a mere rehash of that classic 90s Simpsons arcade game that we all remember pumping coins into. This brilliant creation comes from Thatcher Productions, the same team behind the Evil Dead game that we've literally just talked about. And they've managed to take the familiar Simpsons beat-em-up formula and inject it with a genuine horror twist. Whilst it may look familiar at first glance, with returning characters like Homer and Marge from the arcade game, you'll quickly discover new enemies lurking in Springfield's shadows, along with some fantastic new playable characters like Bartman and Krusty the Clown. What really impressed me about this game though is the recruitment system. As you're punching your way through Springfield's spookier side, you can actually interact with non-playable characters like Chief Wiggum and Ned Flanders to recruit them to your cause. There's something deeply satisfying about having Flanders suddenly embrace his darker side to join your battle, or for Wiggum to put away his donuts and pick up his baton instead to wade into the supernatural beings that have invaded Springfield. Now, I'll be honest, the game isn't perfect. Some of the sound effects feel a bit mismatched, with certain audio clips that sound like they've been lifted straight from Street Fighter 2, which feels oddly out of place in a Simpsons game. But here's the thing, despite being technically finished, this still feels like a work in progress with incredible potential. This one's actually a personal favourite of mine from this entire list. The execution is so impressive that I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Matt Gorin himself gave it his blessing. Ay caramba, indeed. Now here's where things get really interesting, because our fourth entry perfectly demonstrates just how versatile the OpenBOR engine has become. Whilst most of the games we've covered so far stick to that traditional side-scrolling beat-em-up formula, developers are pushing the boundaries and creating different genres within the engine. Case in point, Silver Knight's Crusaders by True Roll Dreams. This isn't your typical OpenBOR experience. Instead, it's a full-blown Castlevania-style action platformer that pays a loving tribute to Konami's legendary vampire hunting series. And let me tell you, it's seriously impressive what they've managed to accomplish here. The developers have carefully curated sprites from various classic 2D Castlevania titles to create what feels like an unofficial but completely authentic addition to the series. The attention to detail is remarkable. This genuinely feels like it could have been a lost Castlevania game from the series' golden era. What really impressed me about Silver Knight's Crusaders is how smoothly everything runs. The gameplay feels polished and responsive. The introduction of new characters alongside familiar elements is expertly handled, and the whole experience demonstrates just how efficiently the OpenBOR engine can handle games beyond its beat-em-up roots. If you're a Castlevania fan looking for something new, or you're simply curious to see what else OpenBOR could do besides traditional brawlers, then Silver Knight's Crusaders is an absolute must-play. It's proof that fan developers are continuing to find creative new ways to honour the classics that we all know and love. Alright, hear me out here. I'm going to cheat a little bit here because our next entry is technically 3 games. But listen, the Splatterhouse OpenBOR trilogy consists of Deception of the Mask, Journey Through Hell, and Back to Light. And since they all play virtually identically and follow directly from one another, it makes perfect sense to cover them as a single entry. This fan-made trilogy picks up where Namco's original Splatterhouse series left off back in the 90s. Since Namco seems to be completely uninterested in giving us a proper sequel to that classic trilogy, the fans decided to take matters into their own blood-soaked hands. The result? A brutal beat-em-up trilogy that plays true to the spirit of those original games. The story brings Rick back to that familiar nightmare. He's once again donned the cursed mask that grants him supernatural strength, and he's returned to Dr. West's mansion to face down the hordes of darkness one more time. But here's where things get interesting. Unlike the original games, you can now play as different versions of Rick right from the start. Want the classic hockey-masked Rick from the first game? You got it. Prefer Skull Rick from the second game? He's there. How about that Hulk-like ultimate form that Rick transforms into during the third game? You can select him as a playful character from the start without needing to power up. Each version of Rick comes with their own unique moves and abilities, some of them brand new to these games, which adds some real variety to the experience. The core gameplay is exactly what you'd expect. You're running through creepy locations, pummeling monsters instead of regular bad guys, and facing off against grotesque bosses at the end of each level. Now, I'll be honest about the trilogy's biggest weakness, which is something that plagues many OpenBOR games. The difficulty can be absolutely brutal. Sometimes the enemy AI will spam you into oblivion, and other times they'll knock you down and refuse to let you get back up. Thankfully, they are cheat options if things get too frustrating, so you're not completely stuck. What I really appreciate about this trilogy is how they handled the co-op mode. You want to play with a friend? Great, you can. But they didn't bog down the experience trying to explain why there's suddenly multiple different versions of Rick running around. This is fundamentally the story of one man carving his way through hordes of hellish creatures. If you want to bring a friend along for the ride, the game just lets you do it without any convoluted plot explanations. Each game is fairly substandard too. The first one alone will give you around 2 hours of undead bashing action, so there's plenty of content to sink your teeth into here. For old school Splatterhouse fans, this trilogy absolutely delivers that classic experience of looking cool whilst demolishing supernatural horrors. If you enjoyed the originals, then this trilogy of fan-made continuations are definitely worth your time. And for our final entry, it's only fitting that we come full circle with a Streets of Rage game. After all, the original Beats of Rage fan project was born out of frustration with the apparent death of beat-em-ups in the late 90s, and Sega's complete lack of interest in giving us more Streets of Rage related content. The original developers at Senile Team held this franchise in such high regard that they basically kickstarted an entire community around it. I've covered fan-made titles like Rage of the Streets and Streets of Rage 2X in my previous OpenBOR videos, but Streets of Rage Zombies, created by the developer known only as Sume, really cranks up the madness to 11. Yes, this game actually exists, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Streets of Rage Zombies throws Axel, Blaze, and the rest of the classic Streets of Rage crew into a city overrun by a zombie pandemic. Instead of dealing with regular street thugs, our heroes are now facing down shuffling hordes of the undead. But here's what makes this special. Rather than just lazily reusing existing assets like many fan games do, Sume has painstakingly edited enemies to create zombified versions of characters from previous Streets of Rage games. The gameplay has been significantly enhanced too. Combat feels much faster and more fluid than the original titles, with our heroes able to pull off devastating new special moves and combos by building up a super move meter, a mechanic similar to what we saw in Streets of Rage 2X. The level design draws from Streets of Rage classics, but also incorporates stages from the likes of Night Slashers, X-Men vs Street Fighter, and Final Fight. It's this kind of creative mashup that makes fan games so exciting. But wait, it gets even better. This isn't just about zombies. We're talking about a full-on horror movie crossover extravaganza. Pennywise from Stephen King's It shows up as a boss. Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th makes an appearance. Even that creepy girl from The Ring crawls out of a television set to give you a bit of a kick-in. Some enemies have been redesigned to look like Cenobites from the Hellraiser series, and yes, even Nemesis from Resident Evil 3 is here with his rocket launcher in tow. I'm pretty sure that Capcom, Warner Brothers and Paramount have absolutely no idea that their beloved horror icons are getting the crap kicked out of them by classic Sega characters, but honestly, that just makes it even more delightful. Streets of Rage Zombies isn't just a love letter to the Streets of Rage franchise, it's a celebration of the entire horror slasher genre. It's wonderfully over the top, brilliantly executed, and the perfect way to wrap up our Halloween horror Open Beats of Rage showcase. And there you have it, folks. 5 fantastic horror-themed OpenBOR beat-em-ups that represent some of the most compelling and innovative fan-made titles you'll find anywhere. Each of these games showcases the incredible creativity and passion of the OpenBOR community, and I highly recommend every single one of these games for anyone looking for something truly, genuinely special to play this Halloween season. If you have enjoyed this horror-focused exploration, I definitely encourage you to check out my previous 3 OpenBOR videos as well. You'll find them all organised in a handy playlist on my channel. Between this video and those previous episodes, we've covered, well actually, over 20 outstanding games that really demonstrate the amazing range of what's possible with this engine. I should also mention that there's another excellent horror-themed OpenBOR game called Night Slashers X that you should absolutely play this Halloween. The only reason why I didn't include it in today's video is because I'd already featured it in a previous OpenBOR video, and I didn't want to be cheap by repeating content and cutting corners. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Which of these 5 games are you most interested in trying out? I'll be adding download links in the video description for as many of these titles as possible, so you can jump right in and start playing. And as always, if you have enjoyed this video, then don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss any future updates from me. Be sure to follow me on my social media platforms, and do consider checking out my previous OpenBOR Trilogy along with some of the other playlists on my channel. There's plenty more gaming goodness to discover. And with a bit of luck, I'll see you all in the next video. Until then, bye for now, and happy Halloween.